Before you begin, discharge your iPhone battery below 25%. To begin, we will switch off the iPhone. Next, remove the pentalobe screws from the bottom of the phone. If your screen is cracked, apply tape to the glass. The tape will keep the broken glass contained and provide structural integrity when removing the screen. If the broken glass makes it difficult for the suction cup to stick, try folding a strong piece of tape into a handle and lifting the display with that instead. Optionally, heating up the lower edge of the iPhone with a hairdryer will help soften the adhesive and make it easier to open. Apply a suction cup to the lower half of the screen just above the home button. Pull up on the suction cup with a firm, constant pressure to create a slight gap between the front panel and the rear case. Insert a pick or a thin pry tool a few millimeters into the gap. Slide your pick around the corner and up to the left edge of the phone while moving towards the volume control buttons and silent switch, breaking up the adhesive holding the display in place. Stop near the top left corner of the display. Reinsert your tool at the lower right corner of the iPhone. Slide it around the corner and up to the right side of the phone to separate the adhesive. Gently pull up on the suction cup to lift up the bottom edge of the screen. Be careful not to raise the screen more than 15 degrees or you could strain or tear the ribbon cables. Slide your tool along the top edge of the phone to loosen the last bit of adhesive. Slide the screen assembly slightly down away from the top edge of the phone to disengage the clips holding it to the frame. Open the iPhone by swinging the display up from the left side like the back cover of a book. Don't try to fully separate the display yet, as several fragile ribbon cables are still connected. Lean the display against something to keep it propped up while you are working on the phone. Remove the 4 Phillips screws securing the lower display cable bracket to the logic board. Throughout this guide, keep careful track of your screws so that each one goes back to where it came from during reassembly. Installing a screw in the wrong place can cause permanent damage. Remove the lower display cable bracket. Use the point of a spudger to pry the battery connector up from its socket on the logic board. Bend the connector cable up slightly to prevent it from accidentally making contact with the socket and providing power to the phone during your repair. Use the tip of a spudger or a fingernail to disconnect the lower display connector by prying it straight up from its socket. To reattach, press connectors like this one. Press down on one side until it clicks into place, then repeat on the other side. Do not press on the middle. If the connector is even slightly misaligned, the connector can bend, causing permanent damage. Disconnect the second lower display cable connector directly behind the one you disconnected in the previous step. Remove the 2 tri-point screws securing the bracket over the front sensor connector. Remove the bracket, then use the tip of a spudger or a fingernail to disconnect the front sensor connector from its socket. Remove the display assembly. During reassembly, pause here if you wish to replace the adhesive around the edges of the display. Remove the 5 Phillips screws securing the earpiece speaker bracket. This is where most people get it wrong. Do not confuse the locations of the screws as it will ruin the screen. Remove the earpiece speaker bracket. Use the flat end of a spudger to lift the front-facing camera from its housing. Gently bend the camera ribbon cable to the side to clear the way for the earpiece speaker underneath. Remove the earpiece speaker. Gently fold the camera and the attached ribbon cable towards the bottom of the iPhone to allow access to the components underneath. Use a hairdryer and apply it to the top front of the display for about a minute in order to soften the adhesive securing the sensors. After heating up the area with the hairdryer, gently insert the sharp edge of a plastic pry tool underneath the camera assembly's flex cable on the opposite side of the front-facing camera. Remove the front camera and the sensor cable assembly. When reassembling, verify the tape is in place or else cover the contacts on the back of the cable with an appropriate tape such as Kapton tape. Next, remove the 4 Y screws securing the bracket over the Home and Touch ID sensor. During reassembly, be careful not to over-tighten these screws or your home button may not work. Remove the bracket that secures the home button and the Touch ID sensor. Pry under the left edge of the home button cable connector to disconnect it from its socket. If the entire connector begins to flip up without separating, press down the cable at the top edge of the connector with the flat of your spudger while simultaneously prying up the left edge of the connector. Be careful not to damage the cable or connector or you will permanently disable the sensor. Using a pick, gently separate the adhesive holding the home button cable to the back side of the screen. Use a hairdryer if the cable does not come off easily. Remove the home button assembly by lifting it through the front side of the screen. To reinstall, first feed the cable through the hole in the front of the display as shown. Peel back the upper rectangular portion of the LCD shield plate sticker to separate it from the flex cable underneath. You don't need to remove the sticker completely unless you intend to replace it. Use a Y screwdriver to remove the 3 1.2 mm screws from one side of the EMI shield. If you are having trouble loosening these screws, press the driver harder onto the screw as you turn it. If necessary, use the flat edge of the spudger to brace each display clip from behind so you can apply more pressure to the screws without bending the clips. Use a Y screwdriver to remove 2 more 1.2 mm screws from the other side of the EMI shield. Remove the 1.8 mm Phillips screw securing the EMI shield near the bottom of the display. Lift the LCD shield plate while pressing down on the flex cable. Feed the flex cable through the cutout in the LCD shield plate, being careful not to snag it. Remove the LCD shield plate. That's it, you're done disassembly. To reassemble, repeat in reverse order with the new screen. If this was helpful to you and you watched this far, please smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more how-to videos.